Hi students, today we are going to discuss about one more important topic from lipid metabolism. The topic is fatty liver and followed by lipotropic factors. So the definition is excess of deposition of fats in liver, right? So this accumulation of excess lipids or fat leads to the lysis of liver cells and deposition of fibrous tissues. It alters the functions of liver, right? So deposition of fibrous tissue leads to cirrhosis, which alters the liver functions. This is the concept of fatty liver. What are all the reasons or causes for fatty liver? We have three causes. One is increased synthesis of lipids. Another one is reduced utilization or reduced removal of fats. Third one is lipoprotein synthesis. So in increased synthesis of lipids, we have high fat intake and high glucose intake, right? You know, high glucose intake means that also leads to lipogenesis and finally TAG stored in the adipose tissue, right? So both high fat intake and high glucose intake leads to fatty liver. Next one is we have two important disease conditions, that is starvation and diabetes mellitus. Here, underutilization and unavailability of carbohydrate, that is the problem. Unavailability of the carbohydrate, which leads to breakdown of storage fat, that is lipolysis in adipose tissue, which releases more amount of free fatty acids in the circulation, that leads to accumulation of lipids or fats in liver, leads to fatty liver. This is the first cause. Second one is we have reduced utilization and also reduced removal of fats. Here what happens is we are having again two conditions. One is chronic alcoholism, another one is non-alcoholic conditions. In chronic alcoholism, the NADH is released in the alcohol metabolism, which converts all the oxaloacetate, available all the oxaloacetate converted into malate. There is no place for the glucose metabolism. That is, oxaloacetate decreased leads to decreased acetyl-CoA and TCA cycle, finally leads to fatty acid accumulation in the liver, and TAG is stored in liver, produces fatty liver. There is no place for the oxaloacetate, enters into TCA cycle and produces more amount of energy. This is for chronic alcoholism. Second condition is NASH, that is non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. Non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. Here what happens is due to obesity, insulin resistance, diabetes mellitus, hypertension and hyperlipidemia. These conditions go for liver injury and leads to cirrhosis, which affects the liver function. This is test liver functions, right? Due to obesity, DM, diabetes mellitus, insulin resistance, hypertension and hyperlipidemia, they will go for liver injury that leads to cirrhosis, which affect the liver cells, right? Third one is impaired lipoprotein synthesis. Here what happens is the important condition is protein energy malnutrition. The synthesis of apoprotein is decreased. Next one is decreased synthesis of phospholipids. This decreased synthesis and decreased synthesis of apoprotein and phospholipids leads to decreased synthesis of lipoprotein. And finally, they will go for impaired lipoprotein synthesis leads to accumulation of fat in the liver, fatty liver. Next one is some chemicals like carbon tetrachloride, arsenic, lead. These also will decreases the synthesis of lipoprotein, and formation of decreased lipoprotein leads to fatty liver. Mainly VLDL is accumulated in the liver. So the triad for fatty liver is increased synthesis of TAG, that is lipids. Second one is decreased lipoprotein secretion. Third one is underutilization or unavailability of the fat, that is removal of fats, reduced removal of fats. This is the triad for fatty liver. For this fatty liver, the treatment is very simple, that is lipotropic factors. The number one three amino acids, methionine, betaine, and choline. Second one is omega-3 fatty acids. Third is vitamin E, and fourth one is phosphatidyl inositol. This is one of the important component of the phospholipid, which leads for the formation of fatty liver, right? MBC, that is methionine, betaine, choline amino acids, one of the first lipotropic factor. Second one is vitamin E, antioxidant properties, scavenging all the cholesterol. Third one is omega-3 fatty acids, again antioxidant action, removing cholesterol from the peripheries to the liver. The last one is inositol, phosphatidyl inositol. These four are coming under the lipotropic factors. Okay.